It has been supposed for a long time that a nuclear detonation would be an event that would gather the attention of an extraterrestrial intelligence that had the capacity to travel here and interact with us. What is on screen now is supposedly the uncropped photo taken of the first nuclear detonation in human history. I will be showing some other things as we go along here, including NASA's tether failure. Some have said that had it broken even 1 centimeter either above or below where it broke, that it would have led to the loss of human life, and it is broken in the only place possible for no death to occur. Next, there will be a video of a UFO that is larger than the sun that was shown by NASA's own cameras until people started noticing. I was on a certain paranormal image board when this happened, so I got to see it live. I know it's not fabricated, unless the feed itself was tampered with. Beyond that, I will be covering the Brookings Institution's proposed studies on the implications of peaceful space activities for human affairs that's often referred to simply as the Brookings Report. I'll also show you some of Richard Hoagland's work. But to begin, one of the main functions of government is, well, national security. And something that is entering your airspace and moving at a rate of speed that humans did not believe was possible at the time. To say the least, it was something that was extremely concerning to the government. One other detail that was extremely concerning is that Roswell is not only the most publicly known saucer crash, but it was also where the United States was storing its nuclear weapons at the time. It may have been the only place in the entire world at that time that had nuclear weapons, and this is extremely significant because this behavior has been continuously reported since, and you can look it up yourself. There have been repeated sightings of unidentified flying objects over military bases, with not long afterwards all nuclear weapons becoming unusable, malfunctioning in some critical way. To say the least, that is extremely concerning to a post-World War II world. But all in all, the biggest reason that this has been kept secret is simply that it will change the world forever whenever it becomes public knowledge, and people that are invested in maintaining the status quo, because as things currently are, they get to play God over people they view as literal animals, and themselves as a literal God. The idea of free energy, of people traveling the universe, it's something abhorrent to people that want to play God. I think honestly that is the biggest reason why this is kept secret, because it changes everything forever. And I think that those who have absolute power today perhaps have some sort of arrangement with an entity or entities that feed on negative energy and death, and they themselves would like this arrangement to continue, while it seems as though other forces would like us to join something like a galactic brotherhood and search the universe with them to find and encourage other sentient life towards coming to know and understand what life really is. But let's continue with the Brookings Report. While face-to-face meetings with it will not occur within the next 20 years, that is in the 1960s and 1970s, unless its technology is more advanced than ours, qualifying it to visit Earth. Artifacts left at some point in time by these life forms might possibly be discovered through our space activities on the Moon, Mars, or Venus. Anthropological files contain many examples of societies, sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they have had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies, espousing different ideas and different lifeways. Others that survived such an experience usually did so by paying the price of changes in values and attitudes and behavior. Since intelligent life might be discovered at any time via the radio telescope research presently underway, and since the consequences of such discovery are presently unpredictable, because of our limited knowledge of behavior under even an approximation of such dramatic circumstances, 2 research areas can be recommended. Continuing studies to determine emotional and intellectual understanding and attitudes, and successive alterations of them, if any, regarding the possibility and consequences of discovering intelligent extraterrestrial life. Historical and empirical studies of the behavior of peoples and their leaders when confronted with dramatic and unfamiliar events or social pressures. Such studies might help to provide programs for meeting and adjusting to the implications of such a discovery. Questions one might wish to answer by such studies would include: how might such information, under what circumstances, be presented to or withheld from the public, for what ends? What might be the role of the discovering scientists and other decision makers regarding release of the fact of discovery? An individual's reaction to such a radio contact would in part depend on his cultural, religious, and social background, as well as on the actions of those he considered authorities and leaders, and their behavior, in turn, would in part depend on their cultural, social, and religious environment. The discovery would certainly be front-page news everywhere. The degree of political or social repercussion would probably depend on leadership's interpretation of 1. Its own rule, 2. Threats to that role, and 3. National and personal opportunities to take advantage of the disruption or reinforcement of the attitudes and values of others, since leadership itself might have great need to gauge the direction and intensity of public attitude, to strengthen its own morale, and for decision-making purposes it would be most advantageous to have more to go on than personal opinions about the opinions of the public and other leadership groups. The knowledge that life existed in other parts of the universe might lead to a greater unity of men on Earth based on the oneness of man, or on the age-old assumption that any stranger is threatening. Much would depend on what, if anything, was communicated between man and the other beings. The positions of the major American religious denominations, the Christian sects, and the Eastern religions on the matter of extraterrestrial life need elucidation. Consider the following. The fundamentalist and anti-science sects are growing apace around the world. For them, the discovery of other life, rather than any other space product, would be electrifying. Some scattered studies need to be made both in their home centers and churches and their missions in relation to attitudes about space activities and extraterrestrial life. If plant life or some subhuman intelligence were found on Mars or Venus, for example, there is on the face of it no good reason to suppose these discoveries, after the original novelty had been exploited to the fullest and worn off, would result in substantial changes in perspectives or philosophy in large parts of the American public, at least any more than, let us say, did the discovery of the coelacanth or the panda. If superintelligence is discovered, the results become quite unpredictable. It is possible that if the intelligence of these creatures were sufficiently superior to ours, they would choose to have little, if any, contact with us. On the face of it, there is no reason to believe that we might learn a great deal from them, especially if their physiology and psychology were substantially different from ours. It has been speculated that, of all groups, Scientists and engineers might be the most devastated by the discovery of relatively superior creatures, since these professions are most clearly associated with the mastery of nature rather than with the understanding and expression of man. Advanced understanding of nature might vitiate all our theories at the very least, if not also require a culture and perhaps a brain inaccessible to earth scientists. It is perhaps interesting to note that, when asked what the consequences of the discovery of superior life would be, an audience of Saturday Review readership chose, for the most part, not to answer the question at all, in spite of their detailed answers to many other speculative questions. A possible, but not completely satisfactory means for making the possibility real for many people would be to confront them with present speculations about the IQ of the porpoise and to encourage them to expand on the implications of this situation. Such studies would include historical reactions to hoaxes, psychic manifestations, unidentified flying objects, etc. Hadley Cantrell's study, Invasion from Mars, Princeton University Press, 1940, would provide a useful if limited guide in this area. Fruitful understanding might be gained from a comparative study of factors affecting the responses of primitive societies to exposure to technologically advanced societies. Some thrived, some endured, and some died. What I find extremely interesting is that psychic manifestations is mentioned alongside unidentified flying objects and hoaxes. I find that to be extremely interesting, because whatever this phenomenon is, whatever is actually going on, it seems to deal with and interface with consciousness in a very, very big way.